Thank you. Shalom, shalom, and of course, Chag Sameach, Yom Yerushalayim Sameach to all of you. I have the honor to tell you a little bit about the miracles of the Six-Day War, especially about Operation Moked. Operation Moked started the Six-Day War, and within 6 hours, the Israeli Air Force succeeded to destroy the air forces of Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. The first 3 hours were devoted to Egypt. In 3 hours, the Israeli Air Force destroyed the Egyptian Air Force, destroyed all the airfields in Egypt, and destroyed almost around 350 airplanes. And later in this, after that, the 3 hours later, Israel succeeded to destroy the Jordanian and Syrian air forces, including, of course, to destroy the airfields of both Syria and Jordan. So within 6 hours, Israel indeed won the war. So in fact, it's not the 6-day war, it's the 6 hours war, because after those 6 hours, Israel almost did not fight. Both the Egyptian and the Jordanian and later the Syrian armies just ran away. They didn't have air force, and of course, without planes, without air force, it is almost impossible to fight. Not to speak, it is impossible to win a war. So they, after Operation Moked, they ran away. The Jordanian army ran eastward to defend Rabat Ammon, cross the Jordan River. So Israel could occupy, could conquer Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria within 2 days, not more than 2 days. And the same happened in Sinai, in Egypt. Israel conquered the Sinai Peninsula within 3 days, and later conquered the Golan Heights in 2 days. So in 6 days, Israel conquered the Golan Heights, Jordan Valley, Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, Gaza Strip, Sinai Peninsula, to the Suez Canal, to the Red Sea, to Sharm el-Sheikh in 6 days. This area that Israel liberated in the 6-day war is 3 times bigger than the state of Israel before the war. So the great miracle of the war is indeed Operation Moked. That is why I think for example, I personally say Hallel not only on Yom Yerushalayim, Kaf Chet B'Iyar, but also on Kaf Vav B'Iyar. Kaf Vav B'Iyar was the first day of the 6-day war, 5th of June 1967. Kaf Vav B'Iyar. So this was a great day of the war. And all the rest was a result of those 6 hours. In fact, I'm going to tell you a secret, that Israel won the war not only in 6 hours, but in 6 minutes. Of course, you might, of course, ask me, how is it possible Israel could win won the war in 6 minutes? Yes, Israel won the war in 6 minutes because in the first 6 minutes of Kaf Vav Be'iyar, in the morning, it was 7:45 in the morning. All the planes of Israel, they set off in order to destroy the airfields and the air force of Egypt. In the first 6 minutes, all the planes succeeded to destroy the runways in the Egyptian airfields. And of course, without runways, the planes were not effective. They could not set off without runways. And it happened in 6 minutes, in the first 6 minutes. They didn't destroy the planes in the beginning, they destroyed the runways. And Israel developed a special bomb before the war of 67. It was not American technology, it was pure Israeli technology, special bombs, because in that time, you have to remember that in the 6-Day War, America, since the War of Independence, refused to sell weapons to Israel. Just remember that. America was not, the United States was not always supportive to Israel. It happened only, it began especially only after the 6-Day War. But before the 6-Day War, it was those bombs were developed by the Israeli industry, military industry, and those were special bombs that destroyed immediately, that destroyed the runways very effectively. So in 6 minutes, the Egyptian Air Force became ineffective. Later, they destroyed the half of the Egyptian Air Force. Then they returned to Israel, and again flew back and destroyed the rest, the second half of the Egyptian Air Force. What was the miracle? Of course, the miracle is just unbelievable. You have to understand that the Moked operation is a miracle. I think unprecedented since Yetziat Mitzrayim. Probably, I think that it is even greater than Yetziat Mitzrayim, because there was no war in which Israel succeeded to win, to defeat its enemies so quickly, so fast, so decisively, so totally, as in the 6-Day War, especially Operation Moked. So what was the miracle? You know that the Egyptians, President Nasser and the Egyptian leadership, they knew about Operation Moked. There was a Russian spy called Israel Ber. He was a spy, a Russian spy, and he succeeded to become the special consultant of the Israeli Prime Minister, Ben Gurion. And he knew all the secrets of Israel, and he brought the information about Operation Moked. Israel prepared this operation years before the 6-Day War, so he knew about this plan, and he brought the information of Operation Moked to Russia, and of course Russia brought it to Egypt. Egypt knew about this operation, and Egypt prepared a very effective response to this operation. Egypt was absolutely confident that it would be able to discover the Israeli Air Force after the planes set off from all the airfields of Israel. They flew westward to the Mediterranean and then turned southward to Egypt. So Egypt was confident that it would be able to discover Israeli Air Force, and Egypt prepared about 200 jets, airplanes, the best airplanes, MiG-21 and Sukhoi 5, the best Russian planes, battle planes of that time, and it prepared those 200 planes in the airfields with pilots within the planes, ready to take off, to set off immediately after, of course, the Israeli attack would begin. And when these 200 planes would be up in the air while the Israeli Air Force was down very low, very close to the sea level in order to not to be discovered. So the Egyptians were sure that they would be able to hit and to destroy Israeli Air Force. And they were confident that they would be able to discover the Israeli Air Force because they prepared, at least they had several systems. They had a radar, Jordanian radar, the Jordanian and Egyptian armies were united. They had 4 MiG-21, 4 planes all the time in the air above the Mediterranean in order to discover the Israeli planes. So they were confident that they would be able to discover the Israeli Air Force, but they didn't. They did not discover, they did not succeed to detect the Israeli Air Force. All the systems that they prepared collapsed, did not work. The Egyptian radar discovered the Israeli Air Force, but they conveyed the message, the information with the wrong code word, and the Egyptian army was not able to understand the message, and it took them more than 20 minutes to understand the message. And 4 planes, they had 4 planes all the time in the air, but the 4 planes that were supposed, that were planned to set off right before the Israeli operation started, they did not set off. They were not in the air. Why? Because the commander of these planes did not get up in the morning. Just unbelievable. He did not get. In his trial, he explained, after the war, he explained that he was not able, he did not get up in the morning because, you know why? Because the Egyptian Air Force, they organized a party victory. They were so sure about their victory, they organized a party before the war at night. So he was tired. He went to sleep very late. So he did not get up in the morning. Anyway, in my book, I tell it's unbelievable that all the systems and all the what they prepared collapsed, and the Israeli airplanes, almost 200 airplanes, reached the Egyptian airfields, and no plane was in the, no Egyptian plane was in the air. They were not discovered. They succeeded to achieve total surprise. It is not natural. Absolutely no book I read. I think I read all the books, at least in Hebrew, some of them in English, about the 6-day war. No book succeed to explain how is it possible, how it is possible that all the systems that they prepared in order to discover the Israeli Air Force, all the systems did not work, all the systems collapsed, all of them. Not one, not even one succeeded to work. Just it was enough for one to work in order to discover, but no system worked. So Israel reached the Egyptian airfields without being discovered. It was a surprise for Egypt. But they also had missiles. So they had missiles. What about the missiles? and anti-aircraft missiles. They also did not work. No missile was shot at the Israeli airplanes because there was again something unbelievable. The Egyptian general Ammar, he was in the air at that time. He left an order that no missile would be shot because he was afraid about his plane. And when he reached Sinai, he was in the air in the beginning of the war. The Egyptian chief of staff was in the air, and all of a sudden he discovered that he's surrounded by Israeli planes, and he uh, gave, and he decided to go back to Cairo. But so he left an order that no missile would be shot because he was afraid that he would be shot. So no missile was shot because the Egyptian chief of staff was in the air in the beginning of the. It's a series of mistakes and wrongdoings that you just can't believe. But as a matter of fact, Israeli Air Force succeeded to reach Egypt, to surprise them, and to destroy in the first, as I have said, in the first 6 minutes, destroy the Egyptian um, uh, airfields. But the miracle is even greater because in the second wave, after they destroyed half of the Egyptian Air Force, they went back to Israel. They didn't have enough fuel. They were most of the planes were old French planes, and not American, old French planes. So they were small and old, and they didn't have enough fuel. So they returned to Israel and came back to Egypt. At that time, in the second wave, um, uh, Egypt was not surprised, and they shot missiles and used all their anti-aircraft weapons. And again, the pilots did not. We have to remember and to emphasize the courage of these pilots, in spite of the fact that in the second wave, the Egyptians were not surprised and there were fierce anti-aircraft fire. They went down to bomb and to destroy the rest of the Egyptian Air Force. And as a matter of fact, only one Israeli plane was shot down. One. It's, again, unbelievable. The pilots themselves, there is a book with all the stories of the pilots telling about their experience in the Six-Day War, and all of them tell the same story. We were absolutely surprised. We were shocked that no one was shot down. No one was hit. Just one plane was shot. So after 3 hours, as Israel succeeded to do something that is really unprecedented in military history, destroyed all the Egyptian Air Force, and as I've said later, the Jordanian and the Syrian. This is another miracle, the second stage of Operation Moked, because it's indeed unbelievable. King Hussein, the king of Jordan, he knew real time, he knew about the result, about the destruction of the Egyptian Air Force. He knew. The BBC had a plane with journalists over Cyprus, and they saw the Egyptian airfields burning from Cyprus. They could see the fire from the Egyptian airfields. So at 11 in the morning, all the world knew about the result, about the Israeli victory. And despite of this, Jordan continued to bomb Jerusalem, to bombard Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, and then Afula. in spite of the fact that they knew, King Hussein knew that he has no chance to succeed in the war because Egypt had no air force. And he continued to bombard Israel. So Israel decided to destroy the Jordanian Air Force. And it took Israel 1 hour to destroy the Jordanian Air Force. And Syria, that knew that the Egyptian Air Force was destroyed, knew the Jordanian Air Force was destroyed, continued to bombard the Jordan Valley. So Israel decided to destroy the Syrian Air Force. And so you see that it is just amazing that you can't explain the behavior of the Egyptian armies, the Egyptian countries, the Egyptian leaders. You can't explain it in a rational way. It is something that the Bible has a wonderful word, Vayakem Hashem besanverim. What is the translation of Vayakem Hashem besanverim? Sanverim means that they were shocked, that they became blind, they became deaf, they could not act normally. Vayakem Hashem besanverim. This is exactly what happened in the 6-day war in general, and this especially in those 6 hours in the beginning through the Operation Moked. And I have a few minutes, so I have to speak about Jerusalem, and so the rest was something that Israel never dreamt of being able in 6 days to liberate Golan in Jerusalem, Judah, and so on, Jordan, Sinai in 6 days, Israel, but the result of the Operation Moked enabled Israel to move. There was no Egyptian army, so Israel moved. No Jordanian, so Israel moved and liberated Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria and the Jordan Valley because there was no Jordanian. And later, there was no Syrian army, so Israel moved and liberated the Hermon Mountain and the Golan Heights. It is something that when I wrote the book on the 6-day war, again, as it is also in English, you can order it through Sifriyat Bet El in Jerusalem, both Hebrew and English. I recommend that all of you get this book. I think it is important to tell the story, to tell about these miracles, because the Jewish people did not see such miracles since the time of the Bible. I would say since the Exodus from Egypt. We did not see such miracles. And in thousands of years, we were in exile, persecuted, humiliated. But we live in a generation in which we can really speak about the greatness of Hashem, about the miracles of Hashem, not only read about these miracles in the Bible. We have the privilege to tell about about the miracles of Hashem in our time, in the history of the Zionist movement, in the history of the Zionist movement, Balfour Declaration, the United Nations resolution, the establishment of the State of Israel, all the wars of Israel, and the success of Israel to the return of the people of Israel back to the land of Israel. All these are miracles. But so all the story of the last century is a story of the miracles of God, exactly as written in the Bible, exactly as written in all the books of our the Nevi'im. But in the great story of the people of Israel in the last century, of the state of Israel in the last 10th century, the story of the 6-day war is the most miraculous. And the story of the Operation Moked is the most miraculous. The story of the first 6 minutes is the most miraculous. We're living in a time of miracles, and and we have to be we have to be full of gratitude to thank Hashem that we have the privilege to live in a generation in which we can see in our eyes the great miracles of Hashem, and we shall see more and more miracles, because everything written in the Bible will be fulfilled and will become a reality. And I hope that you will be able to participate in these miracles. You will be part of the people of Israel, in the land of Israel, in the state of Israel. And I wish you that you will be able to participate in this miracle and to be eyewitnesses to these miracles. Okay, I think time has come. If you have any question, we have not more than, we have a couple of minutes, 1 minute. If there is any special question, I will be able to answer. I hope it was short, but I hope it was interesting.
Hagi, thank you so much. It's an amazing story, and like you said, it's the Jewish people haven't seen miracles like this since the Tanach. It really makes it very, very real
and exciting.
And exciting. It really is. If anyone does have a question, you want to you could put it in the chat.
I apologize for my poor English. I spent a year in America almost 40 years ago, so I forgot most of my English.
Yeah.
And I repeat, I told you only part of the miracles. Just read the book. I have, by the way, I have 6 books on the history of the people of Israel after the Bible. 6 books. Can get 3 of them were translated to English. The book of the Maccabees. I wrote the story of the wars of the Maccabees. I wrote this book, the 6-Day War. I have also a book in English about the War for Independence. So you can read them in English. You have no excuse not to read them. No excuse.
And if anyone's in Israel, you should go on a tour with him too. You watch the Tanach unfold, come alive in front of your eyes. You really feel like you're reliving it.
Exactly. We see this. I always say that we're living in a biblical time. What we see in Israel now is a parallel, even greater than the stories and the miracles of the Bible. And of course, I invite you to Israel. I'm a tour guide, and we can visit all the biblical and archaeological sites in Israel, as you have told in the beginning. Welcome to Israel. I will be glad to be with you in Israel.
Thank you, Hagi. Really appreciate.
Thank you. Chag Sameach, Yom Yerushalayim Sameach.
Chag Sameach, Shabbat Shalom. You're going into Shabbat right now also.
Shabbat Shalom, thank you. I'm going to Bet Knesset now. Shabbat in Israel. Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach.